That's right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap here on the Jersey First TV network. As always, I'm AJ Malillo.
And I am Stephen Rambola.
And you could check out more content from Jersey First TV over on YouTube. You could hit the little notification bell, hit the subscribe button over there. You can also check us out on jerseyfirst.org, where you can sign the pledge and sign up for our newsletter and catch our content over on NJ as well. We got another great show lined up for you guys. And to start us off, though, where we left you, it was like days before Stephen was starting law school. He is now just about a week in. So let's hear where he's at.
Yeah, I mean, whoa, that's the first assessment of everything that's happened the past 4 days. I feel like 4 days it has transpired. It feels like I've aged 4 weeks. Like I think if I do a before and after picture, like when the presidents go into office and they're like young and fresh and like ready to take on the world, and then when they get out, it looks like they got hit by 15 buses over the past 4 years. That's what I think is going to happen to me.
Except for Donald Trump. He looks exactly the same.
Yeah, well, spray tans will do that for you.
It's all of the preservatives in the McDonald's that
You're
put it.
right. You're right.
It looks
That
like you
and
just got to
Diet
eat more
Coke.
McDonald's.
I'll never complain about that prescription. No, I mean, listen, truthfully, I think I really embraced the rigor of everything. To say that I was ill prepared or I had no idea what I was getting myself into would be inaccurate. I had plenty of warning. I had plenty of advanced knowledge about what was going to happen, what this first week and the rest of this year ultimately is going to end up looking like. So, the Sunday before I started, I really sat down. I calibrated. I did some meditation. I dabble in some spiritual practices. I journaled a little bit. I made sure that my intentions were, pure and where they wanted to be, and understood like the undertaking of, the thing that I'm currently beginning to do, and that it's a lifelong commitment that started, a few days ago. The content is dense. I wouldn't say difficult. I don't think that that's the right word. It's
Not yet.
meticulous. It's meticulous. You know what I mean? It's combing through, it's learning professors, it's remembering names, which has always served to be a point of struggle for me. So all of those things considered, I've been on top of my readings. I've been prepared. I'm keeping a tally, actually. I've answered a question, at least a question, in every single class so far. I'm making it a point to, I went to office hours. I stayed after with a professor today. So the face is getting seen, the name's being heard, and just going to start making my mark and chasing the things that I want to chase. We're, learning about I guess I'll call them like help programs that they got, where I could go work with some, 2L students or some 3L students and get some help there. So I'm really excited to start branching the network, instead of kind of like laterally across the 1Ls. I'm going to start bridging that gap and getting some, more experienced folks input, direction, advice, whatever it might be. So at this stage of the game, I'm concerned with staying on top of my readings, being a little bit ahead. Honestly, I'd rather be ahead and go back and review my notes than be playing catch up. Networking as much as I can, and I'm treating this like a full time, plus overtime job. I turned the phone off, no joke, for almost 5 hours yesterday, and just sat in the library and buried my head into the civil procedure book. And let me tell you something, I never felt more prepared for class today than at all in my life before any subject, class, what grade, whatever it might have been. So I think the name of the game for me moving forward is going to be putting in the work and seeing the reward, and just kind of self motivating off of that. And hopefully it'll feed into this, cycle that just rolls me through to December, or where I can finally take a deep breath and be over with the first part of the hardest year of law school. So all things considered, hit the ground running, keeping up the pace, no plans on slowing down or stopping anytime soon.
Well, Steve, I think I speak for everybody listening and not just myself when I say I'm so immensely proud, truly. And along with that, you could just hear it in your voice. that not only does it seem like you are enjoying it, but know what you are, uh, you know what you're getting into in a way, but
Yeah.
you're facing that challenge head on. And I think you could hear it in your voice and you could see it in your eyes when you're talking about it. And I really, really appreciate that. And I'm very proud of you. So congratulations. Keep it up.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's listen, I mean,
Well,
I've been watching, my best friend do it the whole time before me, so I've had plenty of time to take notes and assess and learn from the successes. So to pick this as if it was like a sole effort would be incorrect. You have just as much a part of my attitude and pointing me in the right direction as anybody. So
yeah,
big thanks to you as well.
I'm trying. Look, I will say this. I got this advice today because today I personally had to drop a class because I didn't I bit too much, you know? I grabbed an apple and I took too big of a bite, I think. So I got halfway through this week personally, and I was like, okay, hold on. We got to take a step back. And I talked to a couple professors trying to figure out like what to do. And I had one professor last semester. She was my property professor. She happened to be in office hours. I was walking by, knocked on the door, walked in, and I was like, look, I need some help. And she's like, what? Let me hear it. Explain the whole situation. I won't get into too much detail. We got stories to cover. But basically, she was like, remember this: we're dealing with a marathon, not a sprint. There's seasons for everything, there's a time for everything. You got to pace yourself. I explained like my whole course load and what I'm doing this semester. And she's like, you are not in the season to take 15 and a half credits. You're in the season to take 12 and a half credits. Pace yourself. So I think that today I got the best piece of advice that I've gotten in law school thus far from that professor. Shout out Professor Stolzenberg. Um, it's it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you got to pace yourself through. It's a game that happens in seasons, so to speak.
That's a brilliant perspective. It reminds me of the late great one of my favorites, Nipsey Hussle. That was his whole message: was life's a marathon. Sometimes you just got to remember you're running a lap in a marathon, and that's it. Focus on the lap in front of you, and eventually cross the finish line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say this, there is another competition that you'll be watching me go through this semester. It's the 64th annual Remels competition. It's called. It's basically a moot court competition that all people in fall semester litigation writing takes part of. So that's going to be a lot of work, and you're
Very
going to
nice.
see me struggle through it. And so we'll keep you in the loop on how that turns out. That's going to be in
Very
November.
nice.
So we'll find out.
Before we hit our stories, I do have a bit of a follow up. I gotta reach
Okay.
down and pick it up, though. I have a book that I'm
Okay.
going to now. It is very important that these next words come out of my mouth so clearly. I'm going to attempt to read as much of this book as I can this month.
He's gonna pull out his civil procedure book.
No, so this is called "The Wisdom of the Bullfrog." It is by one Admiral William H. McRaven. You might recognize the name. He's the gentleman that gave that brilliant speech many, many years ago. The whole "make your bed"
Oh,
type
sure, sure.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this is his second book. It's all about leadership. Actually, the subtitle says "Leadership Made Simple but Not Easy." So I figure small book, big text. I might be able to conquer this.
I say
Uh,
you try and grab the audiobook too, and that's a good thing to read in the morning on the way to
yeah,
class, stuff like that, or listen
supplement
to
both
rather.
ways.
Yeah.
That's a good move. Maybe I'll do that. But I am. I will say quite briefly before we get into our stories, since I mentioned the book. Tremendous kudos to you for knocking out as many books as you did through 1L. Because, like I said, I did 5 hours in a book yesterday, and the thought of like picking this little thing up to read for leisure, I think I would have been better served throwing it out my window in the lake back here.
Well, I'll give two pieces of advice. One, audiobooks are your best friend, and two, that's why all of those books were fiction books for me. It's something different. It's good
Mhm.
to read before you go to bed, and fiction is a good thing to sort of relax your brain um after reading all of that like nitty-gritty law. So that's why I went with fiction books for most of the year.
I think I'll have to follow suit then.
Yeah. And audiobooks, they're your best friend. But look, we do have some stories to get to. The day we're recording this is Thursday. So yesterday was the first Republican debate. It featured 8 of the Republican candidates, missing one very, very big one in particular, in Donald Trump. Although he was not, his name was not mentioned. I'll say that. Um, and we'll see. And I don't want to get too much into it. I just want to quickly, like 60 seconds, talk away what my biggest winners. And Steve, you can give your perspective. But from a very much my personal taste and how I felt the night went, I thought Nikki Haley had the best night of the group, followed closely by the North Dakota governor, Beecham, who you don't know his name, and so I mean, unfortunate for him. But I thought he had a pretty good night, and he's just got a real long shot right there. And I thought that Governor Christie, for what he was trying to accomplish, put out a good night. I think Ron DeSantis was fine, and that hurt him. He couldn't be fine. He had to be good, if not great. I thought played exactly to the Vivek Ramaswamy played exactly to his base, exactly to the thing he wanted to do, which was to say, I am the Trump candidate in this race. I am who you want to vote for if you like Donald Trump. And if for some reason Donald Trump cannot be the next president of the United States, you should vote for me. And I think he crushed that lane. That's the lane he wanted. And that's the lane I think he killed. Asa Hutchinson was nothing. He doesn't really matter. And Mike Pence, I think, had the worst night of it. I don't think he has a lane to run in. The anti-Trump people don't like him because he was Trump's vice president, and the pro-Trump people don't like him because he did his job on January 6th. His best moment of the night was the fact that the other 7 candidates had to stroke his ego and slap him on the back for literally doing his constitutional obligation at one point in the debate. But those are my big takeaways. Now, that being said, if you're going to look at the polls, I think Vivek probably has the best night at the end of the day. I think his polls see the most of a jump. Nikki probably a little bit as well. I didn't mention Tim Scott. I don't think he had a great night either. He needed to really pull it out. And I like Tim Scott a lot. I think he's a great senator, but I don't think he had a great night.
All fair. I think so. Full disclosure, I didn't get to watch a majority of the debate. I saw bits and pieces of it sparingly throughout the night. Obviously, talking about the workload that we have over here. So when I can enjoy, some Republicans going at each other's throats, I definitely do. I will second just about everything AJ said. I did catch the discussion that they had about abortion, and I thought Nikki Haley gave her not even of the night. I think that was the best, like, from a politician's mouth answer to the abortion question that I have heard in a very long time. Like, even Democrats considered. I do think that a bit of the accusations some other Republicans made on the stage were a tad bit hyperbolic. There was definitely some extreme demonization of the left, which I never find to be productive on either side. But talking about a Republican debate hosted on Fox, not really the crowd that they need to care about, meeting in the middle on. I would agree with you. I think Mike Pence had an awful night. He seemed like an angry old man that was just kind of like yelling and talking over people and wanted to hammer his points because I think for some reason he took his former position as vice president, and then the fact, like you said, he upheld his constitutional obligation as, I think in his head it registered as like, well, I've been there before, I'm stronger, and I have a record on this, so I deserve to talk more than anybody else. I thought that was really unpalatable. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is truly just very annoying. I hate the way that he carries himself, the way that he answers questions. I think it's arrogant. If I was on the debate stage, I'd have to resist committing some sort of a crime and hitting him. I don't think I could look that guy in the face and have any instinct other than to do that. And listen, man, Chris Christie, that's my guy. I think my favorite thing about him, he did it in 2016, is the way that he leans on the podium and looks directly at whoever he's talking to with this big, like, certain smile on his face that whatever he's going to say is going to be a great point. And 9 times out of 10, for me, it is. I think he's a great debater. I think, traditionally when you look at his performance in polls and stuff, he might not be doing the best. Give that man a microphone, put that man on a stage, and give him the chance to go at somebody. And I think you're going to see a lot of people falling in love with that attitude, because I think it's something in 2016 that made Donald Trump so appealing to others. And we've always said this, that Chris Christie, it's unfortunate that Donald Trump popped into the political sphere at the same time, because I think Chris Christie could have played that role much more intelligently, much more eloquently. But, considering how things shook out, I don't know if that would have worked in his favor. But big fan of Chris Christie.
Yeah, look, I'll say this about Chris Christie, and it probably doesn't play well in a Republican base. It doesn't play well in the Republican race, but that man is not afraid to be booed on the stage, and he said it right up front. He's going to tell you what he thinks is the truth, and like it or not. And I appreciate that. I think that is very admirable. I don't know if I would have the confidence to sit up there on a debate stage in front of a bunch of a loud crowd and 7 other people around you that most of them don't agree with what you're about to say, look them dead in the eyes and say, Donald Trump's conduct was criminal. He should be prosecuted for it. And not only was it criminal, it was a bad look for the president. And he should be, and then he got booed, and he looked the audience in the eyes and said, you know what the best part about America is? You could boo all you want. It doesn't change the truth. And I was like, look, you don't have to like the man, but he deserves respect. That's
Absolutely.
all I have to say.
That takes stones. And I don't want to not mention the governor of the state that I'm currently residing in, Ron DeSantis. The dude floundered. I think every time I've seen a clip of him speaking in public, he's always very, like, awkwardly standing there. He looks like he has the biggest case of imposter syndrome ever. Like, they just dropped him on there and he's like, am I really here? I really have to do this right now? I'm really running? Okay, all right. That's the vibe that I get from him. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I think I agree with you. If you look at polling, I would hope that Nikki Haley has the biggest jump. I think she was probably my favorite to listen to. I think she was very reasonable. I think she took a unique strategy in not going hard right. I think for somebody like me who, is not likely to vote for a Republican in a general election, she got my attention. And for her, that's a win. So I think Nikki Haley, in my opinion, first debate, took it and ran.
I agree, and again, we have some other stories that we want to cover, but I just want to note when it comes to Nikki Haley, is Nikki Haley has a tendency to come off as a very robotic, scripted politician. She was not playing on script, and she looked awesome doing it. I think and Steve, you know this, and the listeners, I'm sure, know this. I am not one to say this. I think she was the only woman on that stage, and it showed, and it made her look really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think, look, I have an opinion on abortion. I'm not one that says, just you have to have be able to carry a child to have an opinion on abortion. I think that's a stupid, dumb argument that it actually drives me up a wall. I think Nikki Haley's opinion on the abortion issue was just simply the best, and her being a woman just made it better. Coming out of her mouth.
Well, and I really appreciate that she started answering that question with the anecdote about her husband being adopted. And that is a huge part. Like I said, you and I have had this conversation so many times over the course of so many years, but that's always a point that we mention is, like, if we're going to talk abortion and, the right to life, as the right would call it, we need to also talk about adoption. And I think she gave the most complete, concise, and timely answer. She showed up. She showed up hard.
And there was one other thing. Oh, The other big point that Nikki Haley had throughout the night was she was the only person on that stage that called out the Republicans' spending. And when she made her point that she made a point like, we need an accountant in the White House. This is a Republican debate. It's no surprise that all of them are going to get up there and tell you that they want to cut spending, right? Nikki Haley is the only one on that stage that went out and said a Republic Senate voted for more spending. A Republic presidency put more money in the debate into the debt. A Republican Congress did all of this. You can't turn around and just blame the Democrats for reckless spending when you're doing the same exact thing. I thought that was a great time, a great point, and Nikki had a great night. Ron DeSantis, to your point about him, he looked the best when he was talking about his record in Florida. Anything extrapolated out of talking about how he ran his state, he looked off on. He looked like he was on an unbalanced platform. He was, when he was talking about Florida and his record in Florida, he looked the best. And that's where he should run. That's his race.
Yep.
But I'm not his advisor, so we have 3 quick fun stories that I think we'll cover in like a lightning round here.
Yeah, let's do it.
Story number 1, out of Hoboken, New Jersey. It's an interesting story because the governor of Hoboken is a Democrat. Or I'm sorry, the mayor of Hoboken is a Democrat who's running for governor of New Jersey. But he has decided to take a pretty interesting tact on the marijuana issue. Basically, there was a case in which a Jersey City police officer used marijuana off duty. Not while he was on duty, while he was off duty, while marijuana is legal in the state of New Jersey. Jersey City decided to fire that individual. There's a lawsuit. The Jersey City has lost. They continue to appeal it. Basically, the mayor is saying, look, you're not allowed to smoke marijuana if you are a police officer in Jersey City. Period. End of discussion. Stephen, what do you think?
So I think, first of all, this is a policy that the mayor had put into place for Jersey City. And then the Civil Service Commission comes out and says, no, officers can consume, when they're off duty. So I think obviously, I've been racking the book. So in my head, this shapes up to be like a pretty interesting, like legal battle. We'll see where it goes, considering it's still, illegal under federal law. How that plays, we'll figure it out. I think on principle, though, I mean, listen, what you do 9 to 5, I think you are bound by, the rules in terms of your employment. So absent of your working hours, do what you want. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think fundamentally, I agree with you. Like if I was mayor of Jersey City, that would be my tact. That being said, I think that there's a fair Federalist argument to say, look, he's the mayor of Jersey City. This is the Jersey City workforce. If his rule is that you're going to get drug tested as a public servant, and we don't want you smoking pot as a public servant, I don't know if I have that big of an issue with it. It's jurisdictional. In his jurisdiction, he doesn't want his public servants doing that. I agree with you fundamentally. Like my position is do what you want. It's legal in the state of New Jersey. There's no reason why a police officer couldn't do that. But if that's the way the jurisdiction wants to handle their department, then so be it.
I think it's fishy. I think you open up a lot of questions because, I mean, on principle, I tend to be, I think, a little more libertarian on these issues. I don't like the idea of anybody telling me what I can and can't do to or put in my own body. I think I have personal jurisdiction over what I do to myself. And it's sort of like terms of an agreement. When I sign up to work for a company, if you say, hey, we don't want you being drunk when you're at work, I think that's a really reasonable, term that I would agree to. We don't want you high at work. I would not like to get pulled over by a police officer who
was also high.
You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't be ideal. So it's a tricky thing. I think though that there is an important stipulation. So if you are somebody who, needs to be on call, like let's say you're an ER doctor, I think that those guys, different limitations because your hours of employment when you are expected to be, called in to perform a certain duty that requires attention, focus, and, skill, you should probably stay away because, again, I wouldn't want to have, an incredible emergency, need some surgery on my knee, and the doctor shows up, 15 minutes after he was, home for the night and started tucking in and smoked his joint. And now he's cutting into my skin, high out of his mind. I have a problem with that. But police officers, when you tend to have scheduled shifts, that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, no, I think that fundamentally I agree with you. Like that, again, that's my stance on the issue. That being said, um, I think that it's a jurisdictional question. It was a jurisdictional question from the beginning in the state of New Jersey. Towns and counties did not have to, allow distributors of marijuana in their county or town if they didn't want to. Um, so it is also federally illegal still. And look, when you accept a job in public service, you give up some of your rights. It's the way it is,
Absolutely.
right? Guess what? The Jersey City mayor gave up his right to not be defamed by taking a job as a public official. Maybe I think he might be within his rights to turn around and say, if you're an officer in Jersey City being paid by Jersey City, these are the rules you have to follow. If you don't want to be a Jersey City cop, don't be a Jersey City cop.
It'd be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Right. Story number 2 in our quick rapid fire. I think this one's an easy one. I don't see how you can disagree with it if I'm being completely honest. New
Yeah.
Jersey schools are under New Jersey has officially passed a law, I should say, in which schools must provide free tampons for students under this new law. Um, it's exactly what it says. All public schools serving any grade, 6th to 12th grade, must offer free menstrual products to their students. The products must be available in at least half of all the school's female and gender neutral bathrooms. Uh, look, how do you argue with it? Quite frankly, to me, it is an equivalent of like passing a law that says you have to have toilet paper in the bathroom. Like it's a natural thing. It's a process that young girls and women have to go through. So I don't know how you can disagree with it. I genuinely don't. I guess the only argument I could think of that makes any sort of rational sense is like it's going to cost the taxpayer dollars more. Stop that. If that's what you're complaining about, your tax dollars going to, I got news for you, my friend. Like
Hmm.
it's going to a lot worse things than giving, teenage girls proper hygiene.
Yeah. I would second that. And in the article, I pulled this off the New Jersey Patch. I thought this was an interesting statistic that just kind of, opened my eyes because I mean, obviously we're having this discussion. We're two men, we're not menstruators. So I have no like inside perspective on this, but this was not something I'd ever considered. So this is from the National Organization of Women. It's a statistic. It says nationwide, the average woman spends about $20 on feminine hygiene products per cycle. That is about $18,000 over the lifetime that this woman, begins menstruating and goes through the process and ultimately, ends up not anymore. So it but think about it. It's an extra $18,000 that women are spending on a biological function. So when you're in school, the same way if we're playing on the playground, I get cut, I got to go get a band-aid because that's just how it happens sometimes. I think that there's no reason that young women, young girls should not have access to products that ultimately deal with their health, safety, and wellness. So this is one of those moments where I'm proud of New Jersey. I'm proud of the advocates who, pressed for this bill to get passed. I'm, proud of our governor for signing it, embracing it with warm arms. And on the notion of money, I think they said it would be an extra $4.7 million, out of the taxpayer per year, which is, and if you look at what we spend, where we spend it, you're talking about pennies. So
No, look, I just yes, no, I wouldn't have an issue with them saying any public restroom period
yeah,
has to have the feminine hygiene products in them. Like schools, restaurants, whatever. Like, again, it would be equivalent of like every bathroom you go into has toilet paper, right? Like it's the same to me. It's something you need to stay healthy and clean. Like I don't get it. I don't get why it would be a problem. It's good on New Jersey. It's good on our legislature. I'm cool. I'm happy with it. If that's where your tax, like, we all complain about our taxpayer dollars going to things that don't make sense or that are wasteful. This is not that. Like,
Yep.
so
And you know what? I'll double down on this. I'll say if there's any listeners out there, anybody who comes across this who disagrees with this, do me a favor. Go ask your mom, ask your sister, ask your aunt, ask your girlfriend, ask any important woman in your life how they feel about it. Let them know how you feel, and then just write back to me how that conversation goes for you. And I think you'll have all the answers you need.
right, because I promise you, anybody that would have a problem with it, not a woman. like, like so anyway, our final story, and Stephen, again, I think we might agree on this one.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Phil Murphy has officially signed the law to make Central Jersey a real place. So, okay, so I have two opinions on this. If you had to make it a place by law, it wasn't a place to begin with. Okay? You just created it as a place.
Yep.
And quite frankly, if I've learned anything in history class, it's that our greatest heroes performed something called civil disobedience.
Yes.
And I will be civilly disobeying this new law, of which Central Jersey is a place. It's Narnia, okay? It's
Yes.
not real. Hate to break it to you, Phil. Hate to break it to you, people that think Central Jersey exists. It's not. It's not. I might as well go into my wardrobe and I'll wind up in Central Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not real. If you have to sign a law to make it real, you just proved our points. Thank you very much. And that's all I gotta say about that.
I concur entirely, and I would ask Governor Murphy to, keep it up. I'm gonna need the unicorn to become the official state animal of the state of New Jersey, and I agree with you. It's erroneous. I think truthfully, I would teeter on saying it's almost like I feel like he abused his power to just culturally create this space that doesn't exist. He out of thin air. Who decided the borders? Who decided the boundaries? What happens in Central Jersey? Nothing. It doesn't exist. It is not a place. It is clear cut, north and south, as it has been, as it shall be, as it will be forever in the minds of people who are correctly thinking. This is a sham piece of legislation. It is performative. Governor Murphy, I don't know what he was attempting to do with this, who he's trying to appeal to. And truthfully, if he was up for re-election, he might have lost my vote over this. So
it would be like, imagine this. Look, everybody knows that it's correctly called Taylor's pork roll, and so it's pork roll, right? There's no ham on the packaging. Imagine a governor has the gumption to mandate that it is called pork roll across the state. This is the same thing. This is worse than that. This is worse than that. Because at least it is actually Taylor's pork roll. I just can't wait for him to declare Atlantis off the coast of New Jersey as our new tourist site, Steve. You'll get people lining up Seaside Heights to look at Atlantis out there that's not existent.
And what kills me about this is regardless of like the legislative malpractice in signing this bill and like the abuse of his power, what he's also done is he has given the people, the ridiculous people who believe that Central Jersey exists, something that they never deserved, which is validation in their opinion. These are people who are objectively incorrect, and now they believe they can point to a piece of official legislature that backs their opinion up. I'm here to tell you, it will never hold water, it will never stand, and I am going to civilly disobey. Central Jersey does not, has not, and never will exist.
Again, Stephen, if anything, it just proves our point further. If you had to pass a law to say it's so, it is not so. like in Brave New World, no matter what they say, 2 plus 2 will never equal 5. Central Jersey will never exist. We must disobey. I'm
I
here
think
to say it right now. This is mutiny. On this issue alone, I don't do anything stupid. On this issue alone, proudly, I want shirts that say North and South Jersey only. North and South
Yep.
Jersey unite.
Yep.
Guess what? Unite.
Yeah.
Put the pork roll debate behind you.
I was gonna say we have to put the pork roll argument aside, unite for the greater good, which is fighting the good fight against the existence of Central New Jersey.
That's right. All right, everybody. That was another episode of Bridging the Gap on Jersey First TV and on NJ. I'm AJ Malillo.
I'm Stephen Rombolo.
And I'll catch you next week. See you, everybody.